Ladies and gentlemen, Michael Buffer. Listen, thank you for joining us. This is such a great day to be outdoors in downtown Brooklyn. I'm Jano Lieber, MTA Chair and CEO, here with Jamie Torres-Springer, who's the President of MTA Construction Development, Quamel Arroyo, the Chief Accessibility Officer, but lots of other dignitaries. We have Joanne Simon representing this area in the New York State Assembly, Lincoln Ressler, who represents Brooklyn, big chunk of Brooklyn in the New York City Council. We have the man of the hour, Anthony Mazza, who is actually the manager of this Macy's facility. Way to go. We're here to celebrate what Macy's can contribute. And a dear friend and civic activist. Where is Regina Meyer? Regina Meyer is the president of the Downtown Brooklyn Partnership. I also want to acknowledge the Permanent Citizens Advisory Committee, who are major factors in communicating what people on the public believe and what they can contribute to MTA, led by the one and only Lisa Daglian. And Christopher Greif is here. Christopher Greif, who's a passionate activist in the PCAC as well. I got everybody? Shanifa Riara, Chief Customer Officer of the MTA, and one of the most important people in our world. Shanifa. Okay, we're here to talk about Macy's, but I got to start with some breaking news. We have yet another 2 consecutive days we set a record on the subways. For the second day in a row, we are hitting new milestones. This is where we want it to be. Coming off of the summer, we're seeing that things are moving very much in the right direction. 4.18 million customers. Last week there were 2 days over 4 million. This week, not only 2 days over 4 million, but 2 consecutive record days. And the Long Island Railroad also hit a record yesterday. So MTA firing all the cylinders, and more important, New Yorkers are getting back to their normal lives. This is a great sign for the region. Listen, today we're celebrating back to business, but we're celebrating some specific aspect of this business as well. There is a new accessible entrance here at Macy's. This is part of our mission, which we are passionate about, to make the whole subway system accessible. And here we have a special case because Macy's did it even outside of the MTA building. They did it themselves. They did it as part of being a good citizen. They did it as part of good land use designed by people in government. And we're here to celebrate the fact that the business community is stepping up to support accessibility, as well as the MTA. The MTA is building ADA elevators 5 times as fast as ever before. We have 30 projects under construction right now. We're opening 12 elevators this year. This has never been done before, but we're especially excited about the fact that it's not just MTA and public spending that's doing it. It's business community stepping up in a way that is truly unprecedented. Listen, elevators aren't just for people with disabilities. That is a law. Accessibility is a right. It's in the national law. It's a law of the city of New York, and the MTA has made it an absolute policy. But it's not only for people with disabilities. This is New York. Parents with strollers, people with shopping bags, people trying to move around now for that with a scooter or a bike that gets you to that last mile of your destination. And all of us, listen, I had a birthday a couple days ago.
Happy birthday.
Okay? Well, it's a happy birthday, but it also reminds you, like, everybody needs a little help with getting up and down stairs, we all know. So it is part of making New York and the MTA system usable for everybody. I say it every time. This is personal. My mother, when she was into her 90s, turned to me one day and said, I can't get up and down the stairs. There's no elevator at my station. I don't feel like a New Yorker. You got to fix that. So this is a personal mission as well as a public mission, and we're going to get there. With that, let me stop and turn it over to the man who's actually delivering all these elevators, Jamie Torres-Springer.
Thank you. Thank you, Jano. We're tremendously excited to be here with this group. A lot of friends, a lot of Brooklynites in this crowd, and this is very meaningful for a lot of us because we all know this is a busy commercial corridor, sees a lot of foot traffic for a lot of different reasons. A lot of us run errands around here, do family shopping. We have lots of students around here for CUNY and NYU. And of course, we have MTA employees who work from New York City Transit headquarters right around the corner on Livingston Street. So this is a very meaningful ADA project. As Jano said, we've opened 6 ADA accessible stations this year. We got 6 more to go, but this one is really special. Also because in our effort to get to at least 95% of our system, our 472 stations across the city, ADA accessible, we have to do it in a lot of different innovative ways. And we talked about that at our board meeting yesterday, all the different things that we're doing to get ADA accessibility across the system. This is another great example of achieving accessibility by leveraging our real estate assets to create partnerships with private entities like Macy's and deliver a project like this at no cost to the MTA. I'm also really excited that Macy's has agreed to maintain this elevator in line with the performance standards that we require of our New York City transit elevators, again at no cost to the MTA. That's something we've been working on, is working with our third parties who have elevators across the city and maintain them. But in this case, we have a rock hard agreement and a real commitment from Macy's to achieve that high standard of maintenance. So we're very excited about this. One last thank you that we missed is we have Patricia Fernandez here, who runs our external partners program at the MTA. You know, this is another thing Jano gets the credit for, that we're maintaining, that we recognize that, again, in order to get all of these benefits delivered for this city, we have to work in public and private partnerships, and we're doing it in a much more business-like manner through the external partners program. So we have Patricia to thank for that. Thank you, and with that, I'll turn it over to my colleague, Camilo Arroyo, the champion of accessibility across our system.
Good morning. Thank you so much, Jamie. This is the 7th station accessibility upgrade we're celebrating in the last couple of months alone, including the 3rd here in Brooklyn, making the 2-3 accessible today. This marks the 145th accessible station for us at the MTA, and that is a great accomplishment. I am so proud of that. This new accessible entrance provides additional access subway options to get to and from the vibrant Fulton Mall, the shopping, jobs, and educational opportunities nearby, including my alma mater, NYU, and their very own MTA building, their Media, Technology, and Arts building on J Street. This accessible station now supplements travel options at nearby accessible stations like J Street, DeKalb, giving shoppers and non-shoppers alike even more options for their transit needs. Every accessible station opening is critical for customers that we serve, but this one is different than others. As you've heard before, our partners at Macy's fully funded this station upgrade as part of their broader investment in this property and this neighborhood. I love every new accessible station, but I love them a little bit more when we don't have to pay for them. These private investments in our transit network will be a critical tool in our efforts to reach system-wide accessibility and getting to that goal a lot faster than we've said, than we've promised, and we're going to do that with private developers like Macy's and others around the city. While this project predates zoning for accessibility, this is the type of project we hope to see more of, like ZFA in downtown Brooklyn and citywide, with private developers investing money into improving subway access throughout the city. This is just a preview of what's to come in downtown Brooklyn. Work is now underway to make the Borough Hall complex fully accessible, adding redundant elevators in the process, which will generate increased reliability in the station for all the customers looking for an accessible trip. We've got many more openings to come this year, and I look forward to seeing everyone at the next one. Thank you.
Welcome to Fulton Street. Oh.
I was going to do it at the end. Sure. Sorry, Regina. Una cuantas palabras para nuestros televidentes en español. Para mí es un gran placer estar aquí en Bajo Brooklyn, celebrando este nuevo ascensor, esta nueva accesibilidad en el sistema de la MTA. Para nosotros es un orgullo darle este nuevo offering, esta nueva oferta para todos los neoyorquinos, los que usan el sistema del tránsito, pero para todos los que vienen aquí al Fulton a hacer compras, a estudiar. Tenemos a CUNY, tenemos a NYU y todos los visitantes que vienen y que ahora se pueden aprovechar de una estación accesible. Para nosotros es un gran placer y esta no será la última. Estamos haciendo más proyectos de accesibilidad aquí en Brooklyn y en toda la ciudad, así que ten atento para nuevas aberturas. Gracias.
Qué bien. All right. to do her thing, and then we're going to hear
Okay.
from the people who make the decisions.
I really want to welcome everybody here to Fulton Street. And big shout out to my entire team that keeps Fulton Street clean, safe, and thriving every day. So first off, I'm so proud to be not just the president of the Downtown Brooklyn Partnership, but the Fulton Mall Improvement Association. And we've been here for decades making sure Fulton Street stays thriving and active. And today we have an amazing partner, not just with the MTA, but with Macy's, on really continuing to keep our street safe and thriving. And this new accessibility, the new elevator right here on Fulton Street to the Hoyt Street Station, which is how I get home every evening, is just a fantastic piece of new infrastructure to keep our district thriving. So I really, really appreciate this. I want to make sure that all the elected officials are recognized for all their hard work. Our council member, our state assembly member who are here as well. And what else could I say but come on down and shop Fulton Street, shop Macy's.
All right. Good morning, everyone. My name is Anthony Mazza, and I have the absolute privilege of representing this beautiful and historic building behind me. I bring greetings from our CEO, Jeff Kinnett, a fellow Brooklynite as well, along with all of the colleagues that work here at Macy's in downtown Brooklyn, many from throughout the borough and throughout the city in general. We want to congratulate the MTA on this accomplishment and the important step for making not only this station accessible to more New Yorkers, but this part of the community in downtown Brooklyn. We were so grateful for the opportunity to partner with the MTA to really make this public benefit so possible for so many individuals. For more than a century, and more than 6 generations of Brooklynites, this store has represented community, opportunity, and hope. And now more of our local friends and neighbors can come visit their friends and neighbors who work here at this Macy's in downtown Brooklyn, and that's incredibly exciting for us. Through this collaboration, we celebrate the ongoing transformation of not only this street, but Fulton Mall as a whole, and really transitioning this area into a true epicenter of shopping and economy, and we're so happy to be able to represent that as part of Macy's. So thank you, Chair Lieber, and thank you to all of the MTA colleagues for what was a long process and helping us see it through. But it's my pleasure. Hopefully this represents the next 100 years of providing the community with an area of hope and shopping accessibility. So thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. I'm Joanne Simon, and I have the pleasure of representing this area in the New York State Assembly. And I am very excited because for years we have been fighting at the state level to make sure that we had the funding, and here we have this wonderful, wonderful new elevator that we didn't even have to pay for. How great is that? I'm going to tell the governor I made such a good deal here. But really, this is critically important. And Jano stole one of my lines, which is that elevators are not just for people with disabilities. People with disabilities have been such an afterthought for so long. And when we finally got the city to make curb cuts, you know what? Everybody loves the curb cuts. So it is really about people with disabilities are people. They need to be here on the street, using our subway system, shopping in our stores. This is what we mean about a society that is inclusive. I am very delighted to be here. I am so glad that I am no longer sort of one of the few people, along with my friends here, who have been fighting for accessibility for so long. I love Kamel is here and making sure that everybody meets their marks. And I just want everybody to know that I couldn't be happier that we have opened this new elevator here. This is one of those stations I really don't like to go to because it's kind of narrow and it's hard to get in and out of. So I'm thrilled that there's an elevator here, and I'll be using this station a lot more in the future. Thank you so much.
Good morning. My name's Lincoln Ressler. I'm the councilman in the neighborhood. And just this morning, I was taking the subway into City Hall, and I got out of Chamber Street, and I was helping a young mom carry her stroller up the stairs. And she said, geez, I wish there was an elevator here. And I said, join me at 11 o'clock at Hoyt Street. We're celebrating a new elevator right in downtown Brooklyn. And I'm so happy that we are. All roads lead to downtown Brooklyn. This is the center of our borough. It's the 3rd largest commercial district in all of New York City. And finally, here at Hoyt Street, we have a train station that we deserve. We should be partnering with developers and business leaders like Macy's and Tishman at every single opportunity we can to offer zoning bonuses, to allow for more development when we're getting the transit investments that our communities deserve. And that's what's happening right here. I'm thrilled that we have an accessible station at Hoyt Street. I'm thrilled that we have an additional entrance here at Hoyt Street, that we did it without taxpayers investing a penny. But I'm happy that we're doing it at more stations around our community. There are new elevators that have just gone into the Court Street R station. We have new elevators at the Clark Street 2-3. We have new escalators that were just completed yesterday at the Adams Street entrance of the AC at High Street, and we're breaking ground at Borough Hall for a brand new ADA accessibility later this year. The MTA is actually doing the work to make our system far more accessible. I am deeply proud of the work that we're doing at the city and state level to invest in our transit agency. The MTA is the lifeblood of New York City. It needs to be well funded so that we can have the transit system that we deserve, the reliable and accessible service that we deserve. And what we're doing today at Hoyt Street, thanks to the good work of Tishman and Macy's in partnership with the MTA, is a major victory for downtown Brooklyn, which is a victory for all of Brooklyn. So thank you so much.
That's our discussion of this great piece of news. And again, I was thrilled to be able to announce, again, 2 days in a row, we had a subway ridership record and a Long Island Railroad ridership record yesterday as well. I want to turn to something that is pretty serious that's also going on. The world doesn't stop when we have good news. Another piece of good news, although bittersweet, is that the NYPD has arrested a fellow named Anthony Williams, who assaulted one of our station agents last week at Nereid Avenue in the Bronx. I want to thank the NYPD Transit Bureau and its chief, Michael Kemper, for his speedy work. I hope everybody is noticing that although we still do have some pretty tough incidents in the subway system, and in this era of social media, those videos do tend to get around, that the NYPD is collaring the bad guys within 48 hours. Every time they are getting these guys, and they are almost all men, they're getting their men almost immediately. They're collaring them. And now what I want to say is to be very clear. I am not going to stand by when people are attacking MTA workers who are serving the public, and especially station agents who have stepped out of the booths to provide more customer service. That's not going to be acceptable. It's not acceptable, won't stand for it, and we have worked closely with the Bronx District Attorney in at least a couple of other cases where there have been attacks on MTA workers. I know she feels strongly about it. And today I'm saying once again that we need to use the banning tool that is available in the criminal justice law enforcement book of package of tools, the enforcement options. We need to. I understand that the criminal justice system has to run its course, and I hope that there's going to be a serious level of punishment for this fellow. But what I want to say is that offender needs not to come back into the transit system. Our station agents should not fear that somebody who attacked another station agent a few weeks or months ago is back in the system, and that does happen. So today, I just want to be very clear. I want this guy it's an allegation, it's a charge, so criminal justice is going to have to find him guilty or there'll be a plea. But if there's a plea or if there's a finding of guilt, I want that guy banned from the system, period, end. And we're going to keep saying it because our workers who are public servants of the highest order need to be protected. Okay, with that, Minton.
Let's do on-topic questions on any of the topics that come up, then we'll do off-topic. On-topic first,
Yep.
let's go to Shaki Dennis over there. That's News
Hi.
12 Brooklyn.
Good morning. Wondering what kind of incentives the private companies are getting for building and paying for these elevators?
This particular elevator is actually kind of a one-off because the deal between the city and the land use deal between Macy's and the city on this particular site is from a while ago. But it is broadly speaking, what is being offered is developers who are doing expansions or new projects that are next to MTA stations where there aren't elevators are being given an opportunity to get a little more floor area to build a slightly bigger building in exchange for putting in an accessibility elevator or one or more accessibility elevators. And that has attracted, since zoning for accessibility was adopted by the city council about a year and a half ago, we've had a couple dozen applications to us. Actually, a couple dozen projects have reached out and said that they're interested in this, and actually 4 have formally started the process. 5 projects have formally started the process. So it's all about zoning for accessibility, letting companies build a little more building in exchange for giving the public an accessible elevator.
And when you say 5 interested in building elevators?
Yes, there are 5 projects that have formally applied, but there are a dozen or more that have actually started discussions with us that may lead to them building elevators. And again, as it was said, this is on top of the elevators the MTA is building, so this comes at no cost to the public. We love that.
All right, staying on topic, Evan Senko-Bednarski here at Daily News.
Yeah.
Hey, Jano. So, obviously, no aspersions and all trust to the fine folks at Macy's, but study after study over a couple of years now have shown that the third-party maintained elevators are not typically held to the same standards, or teams are not as responsive. Right. So can you talk more about what the mechanism is to keep this up and running?
Evan, it's a good point. The MTA elevators are being maintained to what they call 97% availability. So they're actually exceeding the goal. Elevators do break down and they do require routine maintenance. So some are out of service, a couple are out of service all the time, changes. The MTA maintained elevators are actually, we're doing a pretty good job of keeping them in service. The problem has been those elevators that are owned and operated by, or installed and maintained by private entities. In some cases it's a condo. In some cases it's the Barclays Center, that brand new entrance, the Barclays Center. In some cases it's an office building, the Bank of China building on 40th and 6th. In some cases it's the Intercontinental Hotel on 8th Avenue in Times Square. We have been disappointed in the past in how well they've been maintained, that they break down too often, and frankly, a lot of those elevators were closed during COVID. We have now cracked down on that and very successfully forced a lot of those elevators to be fixed and reopened and maintained, and now they've gone from being about 83% availability up to 90% availability. So under Jamie's leadership at MTA C&D, we have actually cracked down on those third-party elevators, and we made a lot of progress. We can give you more specifics if you're going to write about that. Go ahead.
That's right. The key is that, as Jano says, we had an era where there were some privately developed elevators that were not held to those standards, and now we're enforcing the standards. We're very pleased. Macy's has made the agreement that they will maintain these elevators to the standard that Jano described, the MTA standard. So we are going to see the high 90% availability of this elevator over time. Otherwise, if it comes to it, we have lots of recourse that we can come to get someone to comply. But we expect very, very strong performance from this elevator and all of the elevators going forward that get built privately.
Any other on-topic?
I'm going to go further.
Q's on this, yeah.
Just a little bit more detail on that. To ensure that this goal is met, this agreement makes sure that Macy's has a qualified and available maintenance provider that requires parts when maintenance and repairs are needed, and that the agency has leverage to make sure that the operators of these elevators are always active. We have a separate letter of credit, which is different from other third-party elevators. That letter of credit for an estimated $5 million for an eventual capital replacement of the elevators and the availability for the MTA to call on Macy's maintainer to perform the work if Macy's doesn't do it themselves. So we have new leverage put in place, a new line of credit of $5 million to ensure that this elevator will always be accessible to the public.
Simply, it's an extension of what we consider the inside of our store, right? So it's a commitment to the community, and we commit to maintaining it at the highest level of standard.
Super quickly, can either you or Jamie clarify or remind us, at one point the MTA was woefully behind the promise to the feds to become ADA compliant to as much of the system as possible, and now you're catching up. So what's the benchmark? Isn't there an agreement where you have to reach a benchmark, or did that go away because now you've caught up?
No, listen, a little bit of history. Soon after the ADA was enacted in the late 1980s, the Department of Justice said to the MTA, we recognize that you have so many stations that we will accept if you just make accessible the 100 busiest or the 100 key stations. The MTA took, in my view, too long to get there, but they got there. But by the time they got there, the world had changed, and people legitimately expect full accessibility. So in my era, and in the era of Quimel Arroyo and Jamie Torres Springer, we've made a commitment that we're going to make the system fully accessible. And together with the advocates, we made a deal. Let's keep building elevators as fast as we're building them right now, because we're building them 5 times as fast as in the past.
All right, thanks. We're going to give the others a chance to excuse themselves if they want, and then we're going to take off topic, and then we're going to take a little elevator ride.
Okay, but I want to get 2 minutes with the legislators, if I may.
Okay.
Be present? Okay, going down. It's beautiful. Thank you. So I'm going out. Out by the station.
Just a quick update on what I talked about before, which is the attack on that station agent up in the Bronx at Nereid Avenue. I'm glad I just informed that the judge has imposed a significant bail. I think it's $75,000. So we're hopeful that that is indicative of how the justice system is going to treat this offense, this attack. The station agent who was attacked, Babu Singh, is 74 years old. 74 years old. So people are beating up 74-year-old station agents who are doing public service. That is just unacceptable. I'm not going to stand for it. And I appreciate the Bronx DA, Darcel Clark, stepping up to make sure that the bail is high, and we hope that the enforcement is going to be successful. The prosecution, that is going to be successful.
All right, questions. Let's start with Andrew Siff, once again from NBC.
On a different topic, I understand that you're putting out a request for information looking at ways to effectively air condition subway stations for the first time. I see Jamie sort of like not air conditioned, but cool. So the first question is, how much are you willing to spend to do this, and how realistic is it?
Okay, so we're in Climate Week. The MTA, mass transit, is the antidote to climate change. The most important thing to talk about, to focus on, is the more we get people into mass transit, that is the biggest thing we can do to reverse climate change. The second thing that we're doing is that we're trying to make the MTA even more green. And we made a commitment to knock down our own, in our operations, our own consumption, creation of greenhouse gas emissions by 85% by 2040. That was Jamie's work. Now, in addition to making the subway stations more resilient, so if there continue to be these heavy rain events, that we don't end up with stoppages of traffic and so on, which we've seen, we're trying to adapt to the reality of the impact that climate change is having. So making subway stations and the whole system more resilient is one of those things. But being realistic, with the level of climate change, we may need to improve the subway environment. Not going to happen tomorrow, Andrew. We're not spending money on it tomorrow. We're starting to think about a world where the temperatures in the summer in New York could be more in the 90s than they are now, and trying to make sure that that subway environment is decent for passengers. I'll tell you this, though. The best thing we can do for passengers in a hot subway tunnel or hot subway platform is to make sure the trains come really fast, and that's my number one priority. More service, more frequency into those air-conditioned cars.
But Jamie, can you just weigh in on this? Because I think my understanding is London has tried this as well, and that there's like cooling. Are we talking about a Home Depot fan? Are we talking about mini splits like in your house? Or are we talking about some new technology that doesn't exist?
I'll let Jamie talk, but Andrew, in fairness, this is a request for information. It is reflective of the fact that we're starting to think ahead. We're not making any decisions, we're not making any commitments, and we're not spending any money on it yet. We're trying to be prepared to adapt if climate change continues to do what we started to see. Jamie.
I'll just echo, as the chair says, we are recognizing that climate change is coming despite all of our efforts to mitigate. And that means not just thinking about, we have a lot of hazards to think about. Heavy rainfall, coastal storm surge, the impacts of sea level rise, and the impacts of high heat on our system. And we're looking at and thinking about how we responsibly move forward on all those fronts. This is a first step to understand more clearly what the options are. And to your specific point, I'll just say, it's in a system like ours, air conditioning is not really a possibility because trains are coming in and out, they pull air away, stations are going to get hot. But the real concern that we have, that we request information on, is in those days of very high heat. How can we temper that air so that we can make it a little more manageable until, as the chair says, a train pulls in, you can get on the train, which is fully air conditioned, and we're going to be running more service so that people don't have to wait as long on the platform. But we're looking at options to temper those high heat moments, and interested in information and what kinds of innovations we can find.
Yes, my question's about the new protective barriers for bus drivers you guys unveiled earlier this week. Can you say which bus lines will get them first and when?
The answer is I don't know the answer, but what we want to do is to make sure that our bus drivers who have been subjected to more assaults and than used to be the case are fully protected, and that's why we've moved quickly to figure out how to have a cockpit where they're really enclosed. And in the new buses that we're manufacturing right now, because we're going to a fully electric bus system over the next decade or so, we're going to be putting in really protective cockpits, because we don't want our bus drivers to feel like they're at risk when they're just doing their job.
So those will only be for the new buses, or will they also be installed into current buses?
No, we're installing some in current buses, and we are going to make that the standard, a fully protective cockpit, the standard for all new buses.